Johnny Talk Sports in with the Week 9 NFL predictions. Last week, I only went 8-6, which is not the worst record I've had this season, but I wish I could have done better. Although I did bad this week is a whole new week, so another opportunity to get better. Before I get to my Week 9 predictions, if you want to check out my college football predictions for the week, I will put the link to that video in the description box down below. And also, if you have Week 9 NFL predictions that you want me to look at, if it's on a video on your channel, comment W9P in the comment section. Because for some reason, I don't think YouTube is accepting comments with links to them, at least to other videos. Because I would have to look under the reviewed comments section, the comments left out for review. So to avoid all that hassle, if you have Week 9 predictions you want me to check out, type in the comment section W9P and I'll check it out. So without further ado, let's get to my Week 9 NFL predictions. As always, we begin with Thursday Night Football, and this week, Thursday Night Football features the Packers and an injury-depleted 49ers team. We've already been talking about how the 49ers are injured on defense, in the running game, and now Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle are now injured. George Kittle is out for 8 weeks, which is pretty much the rest of the season for the 49ers, unless they can go on an unbelievable run throughout these next 7-8 weeks of the season. And Jimmy Garoppolo, who honestly knows if he's going to come back this season? I know he has an ankle injury. It's a high sprain ankle injury. So we'll see. I wouldn't bet on Jimmy Garoppolo at least returning anytime soon. With Nick Mullins at quarterback, to me it seems like every time Nick Mullins is playing in the game, it seems like Nick Mullins is a pretty solid passer. I would say he's got a better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo. I at least think that Nick Mullins is more accurate than Jimmy G. And for the Packers, they're trying to bounce back from a very emotional loss to the Vikings last week, where they had a tough time stopping Dalvin Cook. So if the 49ers win this game, I would at least hand the ball off to JaMycal Hasty or Jarrett McKinnon or even Tevin Coleman, whoever's even going to be playing in that game for the 49ers. And the Packers defense, not the best defense in the NFL, but not the worst either. And Brandon Ayuk has really gotten going in that 49ers offense. But there's just too many injuries on the 49ers for me to pick them against a team like Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, which I just can't see him losing 2 games in a row. I mean, I know the 49ers blew them out in the NFC Championship game last year, but just look at all the injuries that are on that 49ers team. Those difference makers in that NFC Championship game are not going to be playing this Thursday night. So I'm going to pick Green Bay to win this matchup. Next, we have the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. And for the Broncos, an unbelievable come-from-behind win against the Chargers. And the Chargers and the Falcons, they have one thing in common. They both have a tendency to blow second-half leads. And Justin Herbert deserves better for the Chargers. For the Falcons, to tell you the truth, the Falcons aren't as bad as their record is showing. Because if the Falcons had, let's just say realistically, the 2017 Falcons defense, the Falcons are at the very least probably 6-2 at this point. The 2017 Falcons defense, if you put them on this Falcons team this year, at the very least, they're 6-2. They probably still lose to Seattle. So they could even be 7-1. They could be on this unbelievable winning streak right now, but they don't have a good defense at all. And I don't blame Todd Gurley for scoring that touchdown. Because against the Lions a couple weeks ago, I don't blame him for doing that. Because you just never know what's going to happen. You don't know it's going to be a bad snap. You don't know if he's going to even miss the field goal. I know Younghoe Koo has only missed 1 field goal this season. But you just never know. Blair Walsh missed, could have been a 27-yard chip shot field goal in the playoffs. So you just never know. So I don't blame Todd Gurley for scoring that touchdown at all. I mean, at the very least, if Todd Gurley steps down at the 1 yard line, if he just slides down at the 1 or the 2 yard line, worst thing is the Falcons probably run the ball in the next play anyways, or they like QB sneak depending on how close they were to the end zone. But the way I see this, I think both of these quarterbacks, of Drew Lock and Matt Ryan, I think they're going to have a day, considering that both of these secondaries are young, inexperienced, and not that full of talent. So I think it's going to be an offensive shootout. And I would favor the Falcons because I think at least the Falcons defense, they could provide some stops. The Falcons defense, we saw some flashes of the Falcons defense having some potential under interim head coach Raheem Morris, as they held the Panthers pretty well on defensively. So I'm going to take Atlanta to win this one to make it 2 in a row. Next, we have the Seahawks and the Bills. The Seahawks coming off a win against the 49ers where DK Metcalf was absolutely dominant in that Seahawks offense, while the Bills, they're on a 2-game winning streak after losing 2 in a row. So the way I see this game, I have the vibes that this is going to be just like when the Seahawks went on the road to take on the Dolphins. The Seahawks, they aren't used to the early games. They're not used to playing at 1 Eastern time. So going from the West Coast to the East Coast, I think this is going to be a challenge for the Seahawks. The Bills, they will keep this game close, and I even think the Bills can pull off this upset. The Seahawks defense, I could see Stephon Diggs having a day with this Seahawks secondary. The Seahawks, they just struggle defensively. I know they have Russell Wilson on the other side, but I think the Bills defense, I think they have the defense to win this game and pull off the upset. So I'm going to pick Buffalo to win this game with Stephon Diggs having a day on the Seahawks secondary. I think Cole Beasley gets in the action as well. Just waiting for Devin Singletary to step up. He hasn't been stepping up throughout the season. Mostly Zach Moss is getting the majority of the touches right now in the Bills offense. But I'm going to pick the Bills to pull off the upset against the Seahawks, as they are not used to these early start times. Maybe the one against Miami a few weeks ago, it kind of it could get them used to the early starts, but I don't think so. I think back then the Dolphins were not that good of a team. I think the Dolphins, they're improving week by week, and the Bills are improving week by week as well. And plus, the Seahawks had a hard time stopping Kyler Murray in the Cardinals just 2 weeks ago. And I think these mobile quarterbacks are going to give the Seattle Seahawks trouble down the road. So I'm going to take the Bills to pull off the upset. Next, we have the Bears and the Titans. The Titans are on a 2-game losing streak after starting the season undefeated. But the Titans, I think they were a pseudo-undefeated team to begin with. And the Bears, they are on a 2-game losing streak. Well, it's a battle of teams that are both on 2-game losing streaks. The Bears, they have got to win this game, I think, to keep up in the NFC North. Because we're in the month of November, and if the Bears, if they can't win games, they're going to have to kind of be in the wild card at this point. If they want to, well, they'll probably be in the wild card anyway due to the new expanded playoff system based on the new format they have. But we're in the month of November, and in the month of November, December, we see Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. We see them play their best football. And I think it's going to be no different. So the Bears, they have to win this game. And I think the key to this game is how will the Bears offense be able to contain Derrick Henry? Because we have seen in these last couple of weeks that the Bears have had problems stopping the run. They have had issues stopping Darrell Henderson. They've had issues stopping Alvin Kamara. And you have to take on who I think is currently the best running back in the league in Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry has a dominant day on the ground, but I think the Bears, they win this game in their pass defense. Though Corey Davis is starting to step up in the Titans passing game. In fact, he's got a touchdown in each of the 2 games since he's been back from the injury reserves list. But I'm going to pick Chicago in this one. because I just don't know how the Titans are going to play defensively. Because the Titans, their defense is okay, but unfortunately it's not as good as the Bears' defense. So I will take Chicago. Next, we have the Ravens and the Colts. The Ravens are coming off of a heartbreaking loss to the Steelers in a game where they felt they should have gotten at least one more play offensively, and Marquise Hollywood-Brown took to Twitter to question why Lamar Jackson isn't using more of his receivers. And to tell you the truth, I don't really blame Hollywood-Brown, because Hollywood-Brown, when you're a first-round draft pick, there is high expectations of you. And I think Marquise Hollywood-Brown just feels like he's letting down the Ravens offense. I feel like he feels like he's not being used and he's not living to his full potential, especially when his cousin Antonio Brown is known, even though he's just coming off the suspended list, one of the best receivers in the league, and he hasn't even taken a snap in over a year, and he's still one of the top 5 best receivers in the league. So probably could be over. He doesn't like living in his cousin's shadow. But I think Hollywood-Brown, I think Lamar Jackson is going to get the message, and I think Hollywood-Brown is going to have a game. Despite the Colts having one of the best defenses in the National Football League, I think Hollywood-Brown is going to get a touchdown, maybe even 2 of them. Because I think that loss last week, I think it was a team builder. I think now they see what the problems are, and I think they're going to utilize Hollywood-Brown more in this offense. It's uncertain whether Mark Ingram's going to play this week or not, but Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, they seem to handle themselves in the Ravens running game last week really well, considering the Steelers. They're one of the best at stopping the run in the National Football League. So I'm going to pick Baltimore to win this matchup. I just think with the Colts defense doing well so early in the season, they're going to play the tougher opponents now, and I think the Colts are going to kind of go back to kind of that average NFL defense. So I'm going to pick Baltimore. Next, we have the Panthers and the Chiefs. We've been wondering for weeks whether or not this will be the week that Christian McCaffrey will be activated from the IR. I think this could be the week that it is. It was estimated that he would miss 4 to 6 weeks, and last week was that week 6. So we'll see if he can get cleared by the Panthers doctors. If not, Mike Davis, I think, is going to have to step up for this Panthers offense against the Chiefs. And in a game like this could be one of those games where the Chiefs, they run the ball more. Especially with them utilizing Le'Veon Bell in the passing game. I feel like the more and more the season goes on, the more they're going to utilize Le'Veon Bell in that offense. I think they need to give Le'Veon Bell more snaps before he can really become very effective in that Chiefs offense. I think Le'Veon Bell will get his first touchdown as a Chief this week. I think it's going to be possibly from like 3 or 4 yards out. And I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win this game over the Panthers. Despite the Panthers having a little bit more rest than the Chiefs, I still think that they can get it done. I think that the Panthers, they can keep it close. I think if they were to run the ball with Mike Davis and even Christian McCaffrey who comes back, I feel like if the Panthers assert the run and keep Mahomes and the Chiefs on the sidelines, I think they have a chance to win the game, but I just think they won't be in a position to do so. Because I think the Panthers are going to fall behind early, and it's going to turn them into a pass-first offense. And the Chiefs' defense is getting better and better by the week. So I'm going to take Kansas City. Next, we have the Lions and the Vikings. The Lions struggling so far this season in a year where I think Matthew Stafford had to prove himself, and the Vikings showing off a big win against your division rival Packers. And I see the Vikings making it 2 in a row. I'm just not sure how this Lions secondary is going to be able to handle Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. I think both of those guys are probably going to have a touchdown this game. I think this is going to be one of those games where Kirk Cousins, where he looks like a really solid quarterback instead of a mediocre quarterback in the NFL, and Dalvin Cook showing off a 4-touchdown performance against the Packers. So I think a win like that for the Vikings last week, I think that's confidence moving forward, considering how close they were to beating the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. The Vikings, they have shown potential in these last few games. I want to pick the Vikings to win this week against Detroit. I like Thielen and Jefferson to have a touchdown each. I think one or both of them is probably going to go over 100 yards receiving against this Lions secondary, because losing Darius Slay in the offseason has really hurt the Lions. Next, we have the Giants and the football team in Washington. Now, these two teams faced off a few weeks ago, and the Giants won 20-19. And a couple of Washington football team fans, they thought that Ron Rivera really cost them the game. But I think it's going to be a turnaround game for the Washington football team. They're coming off a bye week, while the Giants are coming off a very short week, just playing a Monday Night Football. And I think the Giants, considering how close they were to winning that game, and they felt like they should have at least gotten another chance to tie up that game, I think that's a confidence killer for the Giants, despite showing heart in a lot of their matchups so far this season. So I'm going to pick the Washington football team to get the win. I think Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, I think they're going to step up in the Washington football team offense. I also think Logan Thomas is going to really assert himself into that Washington football team offense as well. And the defense. The defense, I think, has potential to be one of the best in the league in the years to come. I mean, they've got potential. There has been some games where they have shown some talent, especially a couple weeks ago against a depleted Cowboys team. But the Cowboys, I think, are just a bad team without Dak Prescott. I think it's shown in the last couple of weeks. But I will pick the Washington football team to get the win here. Next, we have the Texans and the Jaguars. Both of these teams are coming off of a bye week. It has been announced that Gardner Minshew will not be playing in this game, and they will be going with quarterback Jake Luton, the rookie out of Oregon State. Well, the Texans, they still got Deshaun Watson, they still got Will Fuller, and they don't have Bill O'Brien anymore to screw things up at the trade deadline. So I think this is a recipe for the Texans winning this game pretty handily. I just think with starting a rookie quarterback in your first game, I do expect, though, for the Jaguars, a lot of screen passes to running back James Robinson. I do expect them to try to find DJ Chark, because DJ Chark, I think, is what gets this Jaguars offense going. I think he's the heart and soul of that Jaguars offense, despite James Robinson being a top 3 running back statistically in the National Football League at this point. But I will pick the Texans to win this matchup, so I think this is a battle of both secondaries aren't that good. And I think the Texans win by at least double digits in this one. Next, we have the Raiders and the Chargers. The Chargers, once again, a 17-point lead. The third time this season where the Chargers have had a 17-point lead and they've lost it. Justin Herbert deserves so much better. He needs the support if the Chargers are going to do anything productive moving forward. Well, the Raiders, they picked up a win against the Browns last week, but it is the Browns, and honestly, I'm not sold on the Browns at all at this point after 8-9 weeks. But I think the Chargers will bounce back this week. I think they'll be able to hang on to a fourth quarter lead. So I think the Chargers defense, it's a very underrated defense in the NFL. And I think Justin Herbert, I think he's going to take advantage of the lack of experience and talent in this Raiders secondary. I think Justin Herbert throws for about 4 touchdowns in this game, and he could rush for a 5th one. And Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson are going to split carries again, as Austin Eckler is still on the IR, and it's expected he's not going to come back for at least another few weeks. So I'm going to take Los Angeles Chargers to win this one. Next, we have the Steelers and the Cowboys, and unfortunately, this matchup isn't going to be as good as it was originally scheduled in the preseason and in Week 3. Because if you would have looked at the schedules in Week 3, you would have thought this would be one of the biggest games, one of the best games of the season. Because you would have had Ben Roethlisberger versus Dak Prescott, a quarterback that is the young and up-and-coming quarterback, at least that has a bright future ahead of him. But then Dak Prescott suffers a career-altering injury just a few weeks ago against the Giants. And this matchup all of a sudden isn't good because Andy Dalton got taken out against the football team in Washington with a concussion. And Ben DiNucci, the third-string quarterback against the Eagles, really didn't do much, didn't do anything well at all. And it's uncertain whether or not Andy Dalton is going to come back in this game. If he's in a clear concussion protocol. But I think it shouldn't matter. The Steelers are undefeated. They picked up a confidence win against the Ravens, and that's a huge one. I think, in my opinion, that's the toughest team the Steelers have played all season long. And they're confident, 7-0. They're going to go 8-0. I like the Steelers to win this one huge. I don't think this game's even going to be close. I think Juju Smith-Schuster has a big game this week. I think Chase Claypool will as well. There's too many weapons for the Steelers on the Steelers offense for the Cowboys secondary, and the lackluster of the Cowboys secondary and defense in general to contain, because you also have James Conner and Benny Snell in the running game, even Anthony McFarland if he gets reps in this game. Steelers win this one big, probably by at least 17 points. I mean, I'll be surprised if the Cowboys keep this game even relatively close. Next, we have the Dolphins and the Cardinals. What a win for the Dolphins last week. I didn't think that Tua was going to win his first NFL game. Although his stats may have not shown it, I still think that Tua did okay. It wasn't one of the strongest debuts. I still think that Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow both had better debuts than Tua, despite Tua actually getting the win. I feel like that Tua was really carried by his defense and his special teams, because the Dolphins, they had less than 150 yards of total offense against the Rams. So that just shows that the defense and special teams really carried the Dolphins throughout the whole game. Well, the Cardinals, coming off of a bye week, Christian Kirk is getting hot in the Cardinals offense. You have DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is the best receiver in the league. Too many weapons for the Dolphins secondary to handle. I think the Cardinals win this one. I do think the Dolphins could keep this close, though. I just think that the Cardinals, I think their defense is a little bit better than the Rams' defense right now, despite the Rams having Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I still think the Cardinals win this game. I'm going to say pretty convincingly. I just think that Kyler Murray, I think he's going to be running around, and I think he's going to cause problems for the Dolphins' defense all afternoon long. I think they win handily. Next, we have the Sunday Night Football game between the Saints and the Buccaneers. Now, these two teams already faced off. They faced off in the opener, and the Saints dominated one very convincingly over the Buccaneers. And that was Tom Brady's debut as a Buccaneer. And ever since that, the Buccaneers have looked like a much better team. While the Saints, they have become much more of a worse team. Despite the Saints still having a really good season so far. I just think the Buccaneers, they look much better since week one, while the Saints, they're not looking as good. I mean, could this be the week we see Michael Thomas back in the Saints offense? I think Michael Thomas has to play for the Saints to win this game. Because right now, there is so much. I think the Buccaneers are the most dangerous offense in the National Football League right now, as far as talent-wise. Because you think about it, you've got Mike Evans. You have Chris Godwin, who has been in and out of the lineup all season long. You have Rob Gronkowski starting to get into it. In fact, he's got a touchdown in 3 straight games. And they just signed Antonio Brown. So for the Buccaneers, you've got 4 offensive weapons. You have got possibly 4 of the top 25 pass catchers, maybe even top 20 pass catchers in the National Football League. And you have a running game of Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. So I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I think, this might be a shootout offensively, or it could be a defensive slugfest. I can't see this being an intermediate type of game, but I'm going to go with the high scoring game. I'm going to say the Buccaneers win this in the neighborhood of 35-31. And finally, a very exciting Monday Night Football game between the Patriots and the Jets, an AFC showdown. And despite Cam Newton and the Patriots being 2-5, this is the worst they've done since Tom Brady's rookie season. While the Patriots are on a 3-game losing streak, and the good news is they get to play the Jets. So Patriots start a new winning streak. This isn't going to be close at all. I think Cam Newton's going to look like one of the best quarterbacks in the league in this matchup. And I'm going to pick the Patriots to win very easily. So really not much to talk about. Jets haven't won a game yet, and I don't think they're going to win this week. I don't know if they're going to win one anytime soon. So on the Jets, I'm taking with Trevor Lawrence. Although Trevor Lawrence, he could be hinting out that he may consider coming back for one more season at Clemson. So those are my Week 9 NFL picks. To recap, I like the Packers, Falcons, Bills, Bears, Ravens, Chiefs, Vikings, Washington football team, Texans, Chargers, Steelers, Cardinals, Buccaneers, and Patriots this week. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time.